Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Daily with Jay and Clay. We're glad you made it. There has been a ton of movement all over the place, whether it is the Supreme Court coming down on veterans, or if it's thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of employees being fired from the VA to different sorts of bills getting passed. There is a ton of movement. And we need to be aware of what's going on for a bunch of different reasons. One, so you know how to navigate. Two, so you can voice your concerns if you have any. And three, so you can be prepared for what is to come. With that, Clay, you're the one that kind of picked the three main topics here, and I really appreciate it because I think that these are definitely the things to watch for the direct effects and collateral effects. I think that there's some things in here that's sending a weird message through the veteran sphere, if you will. And I really want to talk on this. So please give us your thoughts on the three topics and let's dive into it, Clay. Hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. We really appreciate it. Sorry about that. Go, Clay.
Yeah, so we have about 80,000. I've seen 80, I've seen 83,000. I've seen upwards of 88,000 VA employees being fired. We had the Supreme Court ruling that it was not in favor of veterans at all. That one's a little bit tricky. Oddly enough, I actually agree with the ruling there. And then we have the biggest pieces of legislation back in conversation. For some reason last year, they just kind of dissipated and disappeared. And now it is like it's at the forefront of the House and the Senate. There's another Senate hearing, I think, next week here soon for the Plus Guard and then the Senate bill. So all of these do have impact on veteran disability specifically and veteran benefits. So Jason, starting with 80,000-ish employees being fired, here's the deal. Okay. People are going to polarize this, obviously, because it's a new administration. The issue with me is I cannot wrap my head around firing so many employees and it not affecting VA benefits, meaning healthcare, disability, and education. Although the VA secretary has quadrupled down, I don't know what 5, 6, 7 number would be, what quadrupled for, and that's the highest number I know. Whatever that is, he said time and time again, VA benefits will not be cut specifically to the 80,000-ish employees being fired. VA benefits will not be affected. Not just cut, he said affected. I'm having a hard time wrapping my mind around 80,000 employees maintaining the current benefits that veterans have. Now, there is a line of thought I have that would make that make sense for me. But before I do that, I want to get your thoughts on a lot of employees being fired.
Right. So on its face, I agree with you. Yes. 80,000 is a big number. We're not talking about look, people were freaking out when 1,000 people got fired, right? That's less than 0.25%. Then another 1,400 people get fired. When we talk about 80,000, that's about 16, 17% of the entire workforce. Now, it's hard to imagine that there's not going to be some sort of negative collateral damage, right? Now, there's two ways that we're looking at this, and I think that your heart and your empathetic side looks at that 80,000 and goes, well, that sucks for those 80,000 people that are getting fired. Of those 80,000, let's say that we're very veteran empathetic, right? There's going to be veterans that are fired. There's going to be veterans in that number. That sucks. But that is one compartment. So let's sit that over there and let's focus on the actual department itself and its ability to serve veterans, right? It's hard to believe that it's not going to have a negative impact. Now, with that in mind, remember that in, I think it was 2023, it might have been 2024, there were 60,000 employees hired at the VA in a 1-year time frame. The VA sucked before those people got hired, and they sucked after. So I don't know. Like, look, nobody knows what's going on, right? I don't work there at any super high level looking down and figuring all this stuff out. But still, from the outside looking in, I think there's going to be we're going to hit some bumpy roads. But again, 60,000 people were hired in the last year. What were those 60,000 people for? Well, PACT Act claims, for one. They were worried about this influx of PACT Act claims. Those have kind of come. Look, that was going to be a tsunami of stuff coming in, and then it's going to dissipate and go down. You're not going to get the same number of PACT Act claims a year from now that you did on year one. It's just everybody, it was so publicized. It was so in everybody's awareness, bam, everybody's filing claims. It's done, right? So the other piece on that is a PACT Act claim isn't necessarily like, oh, this is new business. This is new claims coming in. No, that person was still filing a claim. They just didn't include sinusitis. Now they're like, ooh, presumptive for sinusitis? Yeah, let's add that. So they didn't get more claims. They got more claimed conditions, I believe. And then with your Vietnam folks having hypertension as a presumable, right? So now they're coming back and filing a new claim, right? So I have to think that there has to be a gauge on the slowdown of PACT Act claims and that kind of slowing down. So that's the benefit side. The bigger piece, though, was the healthcare side, because the VA, through Congress and in the executive branch last year, opened the doorway to more access to more veterans for healthcare. They lowered the barrier to healthcare. For those that don't know, the past used to be a veteran could not just walk into VA and get healthcare. You had to have a qualifier in order to obtain healthcare. The most common qualifier was, I have a service-connected condition, and that's why I'm now getting care from the VA. So the healthcare side, I think, is going to be more impacted from 80,000 than the benefit side at the end of the day for me. Back to you, Clay.
Yeah, so I'm more so on the healthcare side as well. I think healthcare will be affected. Now, there is a line of thought, like if we're going to look at both sides of the argument, what would make sense is this administration, and I think we've said this, over like 2 years ago, this administration is going to go full throttle in community care. Okay, we see that with Trump and the Mission Act in 2018-ish. We see that with Complete the Mission Act on the floor right now. We see that with where Doug Collins, the VA secretary, feels on community care. He's all in. And then even the undersecretary of the VA is all in on community care. So it's going to happen. You may not like it, whatever, it's going to happen. And so with that, what that tells me is, okay, are these positions and the roles and responsibilities of these positions going to be farmed out to community care? Because then that would make sense. I would see, hey, we don't need these positions anymore because they're going to be farmed out to community care. The whole purpose of going through community care is because it's cheaper, not necessarily, Medicare style payments, but it's cheaper long-term, like employees, infrastructure, benefits for employees, all the little billion things it takes to run an organization. That's where I could at least see a justification of firing healthcare employees. The issue is it's not 5,000, 10,000. It's 80-ish thousand. That's a lot, dude. What I would like, I would like more transparency on this, because first, this was leaked. Okay. The only reason the VA even made a statement was because the media got wind of it. And then it blew up in everyone's faces. This was about 3 days ago. So right now we're recording this on the 8th. It was about 3-4 days ago from that. And so you see all these indicators happening. That's the big issue. Okay. What I would like to see is what positions are on the table to be cut. Is it security guards that are checking IDs? Or is it healthcare providers? Or is it VSRs, right? Like those are way totally different conversations, and we just don't know. Now, 80,000, No one can convince me it's 80,000 security guards. Okay. That's not what I'm saying. But that'd be a lot of security guards. So I do think benefits will be affected. Although the VA secretary has said they won't, I do think they will. Now it's like, okay, well, what's the effect? Is it going to be farm veterans out to community care? Because that's what's going to happen anyways. That would make sense. Or is it, hey, oh, sorry, your claim's going to take 9 months to adjudicate because we fired adjudicators. Those are way two different conversations, and we just don't know. And you did bring up a few points here, and I'm going to kick it back to you after the PACT Act. The PACT Act was huge, not just for claims, but for healthcare. And tons of employees were hired during the Biden administration post-PACT Act. That's a fact. Here's another fact. This administration pretty much wants to dismantle anything that happened over the last 4 years. That would be like a blanket statement across all agencies, not just the VA. And so another question I have is the administration looking at it from the last 4 years bad? Or is the administration looking at it from, we want to put veterans first? Again, those are two different perspectives that we just don't know. Now, the VA secretary, I do like the VA secretary. And I've said this many times, when it comes to firing the 1,000 plus employees and 1,400 employees, not a big fan of that. I'm definitely not a big fan of 80,000 employees at all. But to me, what would be the deciding factor? Okay, do I support this? Yes or no? It would be, what's the scope? Is it veterans first, or is it last 4 years bad? Okay, if it's veterans first and it does end up being more community care, they said that was going to happen. That's essentially what veterans voted for in the first place. If you voted for that party. And so you are literally getting what you voted for, which is good. Community care is good. People might badmouth that, but the previous administration went all in on community care too, with the exception of the last year there. I don't know if you want to dive into the leaked email or not, but those are my thoughts on this. They're kind of all over the place, and I almost don't know what to think, because 80,000 is huge. Okay.
Look, here's the deal. And I think that this is a piece that's forgotten. We both agree, right, that, and I think many people do, that the healthcare side is going to be more impacted, right? Remember, a year ago, less than a year ago, VA screaming, we're short $12 billion for our budget for healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, then they adjust it. We're still short $6 billion, and we need funding authorized by December of 2024. That never happened. So there's probably some discussions, I would think, out there going, hey, get your fucking budget straight. Excuse me, bleep that out, right? So get your budget straight. We're not going to just keep feeding you money, right? Figure out your situation. Now, we'll also throw this in there, before the $12 billion short was, we're fine. Everything looks great. We don't need a nickel. Then it was the 12 billion, then it was adjusted to the 6 billion. So I find it interesting that a massive cut of 80,000 people would probably be over 6 billion. So I don't know if this is partial to budget. Hey, look, your budget is out of whack. You need money. We're not doing it. You need to figure it out. Well, it looks like you need to cut 80,000 people, right? Okay. Well, with the considerations, and you brought up a good point about the community care aspect, and I want to make something very clear for folks, is that community care is already here, right? Yeah. It's already been, it's not like this is a new thing. It's already here. It's been here for many years. It actually started with Obama as kind of a Band-Aid fix for long wait times. Then when Trump came in the first time, it was really kind of codified, right? And just really put into place. Then it started off fine with Biden until toward the end. And look, I can't even say the VA secretary gets to make some damn decisions. I think it was the VA secretary and his team that decided that, you know what, we need to preserve the VA. We need to make sure that we are getting people through the doors. We need our veterans coming to us so we, the VA, can preserve our budget. So this is where we're getting this veteran first versus VA first kind of mindset, right? And nobody does a good job about explaining why they're saying the things that they're saying and kind of connecting the dots for people. So an example of the VA first mentality, and I get it. Look, if I was there, it would be hard for me not to think that way because I need to preserve what I got. I need to keep all my people employed. I need to keep getting money through the door. I need to keep our budget healthy. And so I get this mindset. But an example here is, oh, I qualify for community care. How do I qualify? There's a bunch of different ways, but here's one. Let's just say that the average drive time to my appointment was going to be 45 minutes. That's outside of the acceptable time frame for community care standards. Or let's say it was 30 days to my appointment for a regular primary care appointment. It was 30 days to my appointment. That is a qualifier for community care. So now they tell me this and I go, you know what? Hey, I would like to go community care. But the VA comes back with you and goes, oh, you know what? It looks like we have a telehealth appointment for you actually next week. Oh, but I don't want a telehealth. Well, I'm sorry, you got to do the telehealth. You're not qualified for community care because we're offering you a telehealth appointment you don't have to drive anywhere and it's within 20 days. So now you don't qualify for community care. So they were using telehealth as a way to basically roadblock veterans from accessing in-person real care. Now, that's an example of how they've kind of were VA first. You're trying to preserve your budget. You need people coming to you. You need to get your employees working. Maybe they're firing 80,000 telehealth people. I don't know, right? I don't know what the numbers are, but I agree with you, Clay, that it would be nice to know one or the other. Tell me all the positions that won't ever get fired from this type of stuff. Doctors, nurses, right? Or these are the people that can get fired, right? It would be nice to get either one of those lists so we could, really understand what sort of impacts will be coming. Sure, we keep hearing from the VA secretary that, like you said, triple, quadruple down on, benefits won't be impacted, healthcare won't be impacted. Okay. I think back to your point, and I'm going to kick it back to you because it's been so long since we've talked. I feel that I'm just like, So I think in that, here's the thing about politicians is they're able to say something that is totally, and sometimes they don't, but they're able to say something that's truthful, but we're taking it one way intentionally versus the reality. So when he says healthcare will not be impacted for veterans, what he means is you're going to be able to go get community care if you can't get your appointment in your facility. Now, I'll tell you that if I was the new VA secretary, I would be looking at all of my facilities and usage rates and all that type of stuff and trying to figure it all out because, look, some areas are going to have more community care options because maybe it's short-staffed. They can't find doctors because they don't pay them enough. This was a problem a long time ago. Mm-hmm. This isn't a new problem. This is, look, the government doesn't pay the highest for everything, right? So, you're going to go work for the government as a doctor when you can go down the street and make, I don't know, $100,000 more a year, or go start your own practice. So it's hard to fill these positions. And a consequence to that is longer wait times to get the appointment, which then opens up the door to community care. So you need to build those community care relationships. I think that there's so much going on, Clay. Mm-hmm. There's just so many moving pieces. What I'm really interested in is the conversations 2 years from now when the dust has settled and really kind of seeing where we're at. Back to you, your thoughts.
Yeah, my thoughts on that. I pretty much just have one last round for the firing of employees, and that comes back to budget. And it's not just the employees, but it's the Doge contracts. There was a contract I posted on a YouTube post yesterday. It was a plant watering contract for the VA for like a 50 something thousand. And I was like, dang, dude, I need to go in the plant watering business. But so it's not just employees, but it's contracts. And it's all about save the budget, save the budget, save the budget. What I would like to see is, okay, what does that mean? Does that mean that the VA's FY26 budget is going to be lower than 356 billion, which is there's 356 or 369? I've seen both numbers for 2025. Okay, does that mean it's going to be lower? Does that mean it's going to remain the same, or that means it's going to be higher? And if it's lower, then that means that services that were provided, whether it's employment or contracts, are just no longer being funded anymore. And then the government retains, Congress is saying, okay, give me. Okay, that would be saving the budget. Is it going to be more than the budget where the VA still has the same pile of cash or more pile of cash, but now they're allocating more to community care, or they're allocating more to hiring VSRs, okay, or other critical positions? What does that mean? That's my question, right? Because if we keep seeing the VA's budget increase, I saw a chart the other day, and I wish I would have pulled it up for this video. It was the VA's budget from 2017 to 18, 19, 20, all the way to right now, and it's doubled. Okay, the last 6, 7-ish years, it's doubled. That's not sustainable. The VA is not going to make it too much longer if it keeps increasing. And so I would love to see all these Doge cuts, and then the budget for next FY 2026 and what that actually looks like, not just with the VA, but across agencies. Are they requesting a lower budget or a higher budget? I got a hunch it's going to be a higher budget, which then leads me to believe, what did the cuts do? Why are we cutting things if we're asking for more money? That's kind of like the looming thoughts I have in my head there. Do you have any last thoughts on that, or do you want to switch to Supreme Court?
Just the last couple thoughts is, this, I don't envy any of this process to be a person dealing with any of this stuff. Look, one option is status quo, right? Don't do anything. Just keep it like it is and keep moving forward. Which at the end of the day, ignorance is bliss, and I love it, right? I mean, cool. I will say that as of today, I still get my benefits check, and I'm still able to go to the VA, and the doors are still open. I hope that it continues to be that way. I would assume, and I believe that our benefits checks, right, for disability compensation, pension, DIC, survivor pension, all of those things will continue to roll. Mm-hmm. No issues. That's going to keep happening. I would like to believe that the claims process will remain about the same, and I'm hoping that in the background here, there's going to be some investment in some solid technology to help speed up the process of claims. And then, with basically AI, but then a human comes in, obviously, and does the once over to make sure that everything's good to go. So I'm hoping that even with the same or less people, with a boost on the technology side, we would be able to continue to have a fairly smooth benefits claims process. If Clay, you're filing a claim that has all of the evidence needed, right? Your Nexus letter, if that's needed, your DBQ, if that's needed. Look, at the end of the day, right, there's two main things you're trying to accomplish. One is service connection. Two is the correct rating. Look, if your doctor can't, won't, or doesn't, utilize AME, American Medical Experts, free consultation, doesn't cost you a nickel, and at least pick their brain, see what they say. And if it makes sense, go with them. If it doesn't make sense, or you think you could just take that information and then go to your doctor and have them do it for less, do that. But the bottom line is you need to understand what needs to happen so you can file that claim appropriately. And on the healthcare side, I'm hoping that it actually gets better with regard. Now, I mean, healthcare in general. And what's funny, Clay, is and you've watched the Secretary Collins talk many times as well. He's always throwing out that VA healthcare, whether it's internal or external. So he's kind of lumping it all as VA healthcare, even community care. He's kind of just tying it all together in one statement. And I think he's doing that on purpose. Obviously, he's doing it intentionally. So he's lumping VA care and community care out in the public under the VA care healthcare umbrella. So that way, when he says your healthcare won't be impacted, he's not lying. He's saying you're going to be able to get care. So I'm hoping that the time frames, right, the ability to get an appointment quickly will actually be a reality. For many people, I see it all the time, long wait times to get in. And there's still it takes a long time to turn the ship, right? So I'm hoping that we're going to be able to get in quicker. I would much rather a veteran go get care within 10 or 15 days versus you can only get it at the VA. And sorry, we're short-staffed right now on medical doctors, and we're waiting for another one to get hired, and your appointment's 3 months out. That is not good for any veteran. So I would much rather a veteran go get care in the community. So I'm hoping that this does work out appropriately. All right, back to you.
Yeah, no. I just had a healthcare appointment that I waited a little over 2 months for. And I could have went the community care route. I didn't, one, because I just got too many things happening. I was like, whatever, I'll put it on the calendar. I'll cross that bridge. Another aspect to that is a lot of appointments where veterans are waiting 2-3 months. That day comes and then the VA cancels, really reschedules. And then guess what? You're waiting.
It's another 2 or 3 months.
And that happens all the time. No one's talking about that, but it's being reported on by veterans. So community care is needed. It's a fact. Community care is needed. Now, I would like to switch to the Supreme Court ruling, and this one's going to be weird, Jason. I thought about not even talking about this because if I do, I know what route I'm going to go down. And it's not gonna be good. Okay.
You know what though? I think that a lot of people are going to agree with you with that.
Yeah.
And that's I have two different versions in my head, right? It's yeses and nos. My no's, this is why, and my yes is this is why. So we're probably on the same page.
Yeah. So there's two different topics within this one. Okay. There's the Supreme Court ruling that specifically didn't look at the veterans cases. Okay. It was looking at the Court of Appeals and their review process whenever a veterans claim goes from the Board of Appeals to the Court of Appeals. Okay. Long story short, they said no. And I'm sure I'm going to punt that one to you for a further explanation. What I want to start with first is my opinion on whether or not the veterans cases were good. Okay. So what I mean by that is, first off, there's two veterans there. I'm going to focus on the one who claimed PTSD due to their wife, which I think personally is insane. Now, what I'm actually doing right now, I did a poll and I haven't looked at it yet. And so what I'm going to do is share my screen. Okay, there we go. I pulled it up. Let me go ahead and share my screen. This was not the plan. It just kind of happened this way. So here it is. Boom. Here's the poll. Okay. So is this a legitimate claim? Let me zoom in here. Says veteran is in the Air Force. That part matters to me. Okay. Wife says she will kill herself if husband stays in the Air Force. Veteran develops PTSD due to wife's statement and circumstances. Veteran submits PTSD claim. 37% said yes, absolutely. And 63% said what? No way, Jose. Obviously, I put the options in there for no way, Jose. And this is what it boils down to. One, I think this veteran's case The other one was an increased case. I don't know about that one. This case specifically, I can't think of a worse case to bring to the Supreme Court. All those are so to be clear, the court wasn't looking at this veteran's case specifically. It was about essentially the adjudication process of the Court of Appeals of the lower court. Okay. But dude, let's just be real here, Jason. And I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off. No, absolutely not, dude. This wife needs to take care of that issue. Okay. And if the veteran, if the Air Force service member wants to stay in, that's going to come with repercussions. Okay. Divorce rates are super high in the military for that exact reason. Is that the question is that a reason to claim PTSD due to your wife and you re-enlisting or deploying? And two, is that a valid reason to be connected to military service? I'm going to say no. And I'm going to say no every single day. We make decisions, you decide to serve. That comes with sacrifice. That's the whole point of service. Okay. People say thank you for your service because they understand it's sacrifice. Whether you deploy to Afghan, Syria, Iraq, Somalia, or you are unaccompanied orders for 3 years in Japan. Okay. Both of those suck and they're going to have consequences. One's combat related. One is you're missing your children grow up for 3 years. And trust me, PTSD, depression, anxiety, they're rated same by the VA. I get it. I've done both types of deployments. Okay. I've been to Afghan, Syria, Iraq, and Somalia, and I've been in Japan twice. And both of those, they're different kinds of sucks, but they both sucked. Okay. But
were you at Schwab?
I was at Schwab for one of them.
Okay. So that does suck. All right. That's about, isn't that the worst place?
Yeah. God. Schwab sucked. And then I was at the 31st MU, which was arguably worse, but
nice.
And then I have some other deployments before that, but yeah, I'm gonna say no, man. I don't know if that's harsh. I don't know what message that's to send to veterans, but in my opinion, should a veteran claim PTSD or any mental health claim because their wife is a nutbag? I don't think so. I genuinely do not think so. I know I'm gonna catch heat for that. I don't care. I'm dying on the hill. Jason,
right. So I'll play devil's advocate for you.
Take some heat off me.
right. Now I'm gonna play devil's advocate.
Okay.
I'm gonna stick with the other 30%, and the only reason why here, first though, I'll preface it with this. Yes, I think that the attorneys who found out about these cases and decided to push it, I think they probably could have found some better examples.
Literally anyone else.
I mean, this is like, wow, really? It's a hard one. But to play devil's advocate, we're not really disagreeing that he has PTSD from that situation, right? I mean, look, PTSD is not a combat exclusive situation, right? It could be a family environment. It could be anything, right? It's a traumatic stress disorder, right? So if he has it, well, then the question is okay, well, if he was active duty, it's kind of like saying, well, hey, look, you were on the weekend. You decided to drive very far away and go somewhere, and you got in a car accident. That's don't make stupid decisions. That shouldn't be claimed because you ripped your leg off in a car accident while you were on active duty, but it was the weekend and you were off, right? I can't control what you do on the weekend. I can't control who you're married to or what life is like in your house. It's kind of under that same umbrella because we all know, I think, or I would hope, that if you do get in a car accident on the weekend or you're playing basketball in the gym before you go in or after you got off of your shift and you hurt yourself, well, you're covered because you signed the dotted line that said, you know what, I will do what's asked. And in the event that, something goes awry, I'm going to be covered. And I'm willing to put those risks out there. And the VA and the military are willing to compensate me if I have an issue along the way. So, I mean, if you have PTSD and you got it while you were in service, it doesn't have to be because your staff sergeant was smoking you in the back, right? It could be from anything. So I don't know. I think that there could be a there. Maybe based on the rules, right? Do I feel like I would be a little bit embarrassed, right? There's that piece, right? Like how many of us go, you know what? I'm not going to file for that, right? I'm going to rub some dirt on it and move forward. And that's kind of the mindset we're trying to get away from is like, look, if you have a legitimate issue, you should be filing for that. Okay. So that was my devil's advocate point to try to stick up on the other side. Now, again, I think with this court case, sure, they should have used better. They could have found somebody better. That one's a very rough one. The other one was asking for an increase to go from 50% to whatever. I'm assuming he was trying to get 70 because he said he couldn't hold a job. And for anybody that understands the mental health claims, there is the total social and economic inadaptability aspect currently in the schedule of ratings for the 100% designation for mental health. So he was referencing the fact he couldn't hold a job and what have you, and he's currently 50%. So I'm assuming he's trying to get to 100. He didn't. This is all surrounding the benefit of the doubt rule. For those of you that aren't aware that this rule is even out there, the best example that I can give you is if you've watched our videos, either on this channel or our own personal channels, the CivDiv and Veterans Info Tap, or any other of the substantial channels out there with people that know what's going on, you're going to hear the term, and I think you actually have a shirt, Clay, at least as likely as not.
It's somewhere. Oh, it's right here. Hold on. This was not planned at all. It just happened to be behind me.
That's so funny. So at least as likely as not. So you hear that term. What that term is referencing is the benefit of the doubt rule. It's a coin flip. If the evidence is in equipoise, at least as likely as not, if it's 50-50 or close to, the VA is supposed to rule in your favor. So what both of these cases were saying is they felt as though the evidence was equal, at least equal, and they should be compensated based on that benefit of the doubt ruling. Now, this court case with the Supreme Court, one thing I want to point out, Clay, is that the Supreme Court took this case on, which that in itself is a huge deal. There's a bunch of cases submitted for the Supreme Court all the time, and the Supreme Court picks which ones they're going to take. So the Supreme Court took this case on. So that was a big deal in itself. The second piece here is that the case is not about the VA implementing the benefit of the doubt rule. Right. It's not about a higher level reviewer realizing the benefit of the doubt rule. It's not about a supplemental claim person figuring out the benefit of the doubt rule. It's not about the Board of Veterans Appeals figuring out the benefit of the doubt rule. What it is it's really focused in on the U.S. Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims, which is the next step beyond the Board of Veterans Appeals, and really focused in on that court and having them review all of the evidence and decide whether or not the benefit of the doubt rule was implemented. In that aspect, I absolutely disagree with the Supreme Court's decision. And the reason why is because the VA does not get it right. That's why we have the Board of Veterans Appeals. Who's to say? So what we're saying here by saying, if by agreeing with the court's decision, what we're saying is that the VA gets the benefit of the doubt rule correct. They get it correct. So therefore, we need no safety net backstops because they always get that part right. It's all the other things they mess up on. So that's why I disagree with the ruling, because I believe that if it reaches from disagreement to appeal with the BVA to appeal to the U.S. Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims, that court, the Veterans Court, should absolutely review every single piece of evidence and look at everything, top to bottom, sideways, all that stuff, and determine whether or not that claim should have been awarded in any fashion. And they should be responsible for that as a safety net for veterans, for all the other people who potentially could have gotten it wrong. I believe that should actually go down to the BVA as well, to be honest. But there's a quote here from the two dissenting justices, which is Brown Jackson and Gorsuch. Both of them dissented on this. And the quotation here, or the statement essentially, is that the U.S. Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims, also known as the Veterans Court, will continue rubber stamping denials of VA claims instead of delving into the evidence. I think that that's an issue. I think that it sends the wrong message to the BVA. I think it sends the wrong message to the VA that the benefit of the doubt rule is sure. Yeah, you shouldn't have to think about it. You shouldn't have your feelings involved in it. You shouldn't go, well, dude, really, you should have probably got a stronger wife. It should just be, you got PTSD, you got it while you were in. This person says you have it. And, it doesn't have to be the military caused it. It happened while you were in. What happens if all of a sudden you got a thyroid condition that really jacked you up and it started messing with your hormones and you started getting very depressed? You get service connected for that. So anyway, back to you, Clay.
Yeah, it's I'm glad you brought that up, and I kind of want to summarize what the Supreme Court really looked at. It wasn't necessarily the cases, it was just the process of the Veterans Court. So, and you said it perfectly when you said the Veterans Court should look at everything. Well, they don't. They only look at the piece that's being appealed and the reason it was appealed in the first place versus looking at all the evidence. And the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the lower court not looking at all the evidence. However, in my opinion, if I'm a justice, which is I can't even compare myself to a justice. That's just insane to say. But let's just say I am. I can't even. I'm not even eligible for jury duty. Okay?
Oh, where the world has gone.
Yeah. Let's just think if they did rule in favor of the veterans here, and what impacts that would have. One, I think that would absolutely change the landscape of At Least As Likely As Not. And then I think the opposite would be true, where the VA would rubber stamp any evidence in not necessarily equipoise, but close to. Okay, so things we don't know is the evidence of the veteran's case, and I'm specifically honing in on the wife here. We don't know that. We don't know his diagnosis, but we're going to assume he was clinically diagnosed. We don't know what one DBQ provider said or the other DBQ provider said. One could have been a contracted CMP exam. One could have been a private. Okay. We don't know that, but let's just assume it's 50-50. If the SCOTUS ruled in favor, I think that would have I'm not going to say objectively wrong because I said I think it would have been the wrong decision because the decision was 7-2. Okay, so the majority, and these are both judges, okay, on both sides were appointed by both parties, right? So you have a very
bipartisan thought.
When it comes
they're not supposed to be political, but yeah,
exactly. In a perfect world, like the bipartisan should even be said when referring to the justices, but it's interpreted that way, okay. So I think the Supreme Court got it right. And I'm saying that not as a lawyer. I would love to hear like the National Organization of Veteran Advocates, which are lawyers and claims agents. I would love to see what they say about the decision. But I do think they made the right decision because I'm trying to say it not in a mean way, but no, you should not be service connected because your spouse said they were going to kill themselves if you re-enlisted or deployed. That's just wild to me. It's just, I can't. There's no bone in me that says that's a valid reason for service connection. It's a valid reason for you and your spouse to go to counseling. It's a valid reason for your spouse to get on treatment. Okay. It's a valid reason for you to consider not to re-enlist or get a hardship discharge, which happens all the time. Okay. Those are all valid reasons. However, I don't think it's valid for service connection. That's my opinion. I hope I don't catch too much flack for that. Those are my last thoughts. I think the decision was correct. I think the veterans cases were absolutely dog water. Just
Right.
I can't think of a worse case to present.
Right.
And there are legitimate.
Yes.
The VA doesn't get it right. Okay. If they did, HLRs would not exist and the market for claims attorneys would not exist. Okay. And that's a huge market. The VA objectively does not get it right. The Board of Veteran Appeals does not get it right. I can't speak for the lower court or the Supreme Court because it's just not in the VA's wheelhouse. But clearly they don't get it right because veterans cases have been won. In fact, the extension of the GI bills of post 9/11 and Montgomery for a total of 48 months, the VA said, no, you don't. Although you paid money into both, you don't get both. It took the Supreme Court to say, VA, why would you say that? You're stupid. They get both. And that happened last year, and it started going to effect. I actually just got my Montgomery GI Bill payment this month, which I'm very, very happy about because I'm still in school. I've used all my post 9/11. But yes, it is needed for the Supreme Court and the lower court to make decisions like this. But dude, what a bad claim. I just can't.
It's a horrible example to use. But at the end of the day, bad example. However, take away the example, should the courts have to look at all of the evidence and decide if the benefit of the doubt rule was given to said veteran in their case? I think yes. And here's why as well. Not only because that makes sense to me, but because the VA has screwed up on this specific thing so much, right? Imagine you have a GS6 or whatever sitting there looking through your claim file, reading things they have no clue what it means because it's medical jargon, and they're going, I don't know, it seems like, the C&P examiner and, no, denied, right? So when really you might have been there. In the 2 times Congress had to step in and make changes because the VA was not getting the benefit of the doubt rule right. And here we are again, and we had another opportunity at the Supreme Court. In 1988, Clay, Congress created the Veterans Court to review disputed determinations and codified the requirement that scales should be tipped in favor of the veteran in close cases. Veterans groups complained that the new court was too differential to the VA when reviewing the agency's decision. So in 2002, Congress directed the Veterans Court to take due action of the VA's application of the benefit of the doubt requirement. This has been an ongoing problem. Bad choices to use, bad examples to take up to the Supreme Court. Should have took your time, should have threw out information, that type of stuff to try to bring it in. But whatever. The fact of the matter is that I know that there's people that have watched this video that have probably been denied, even though they should have been approved due to the benefit of the doubt rule. And over the years, Congress has stepped in, calling out the whole process, saying, look, the benefit of the doubt rule, look at it. Hey, Veterans Court, take due action, take due account of the VA's application of the benefit of the doubt rule. In other words, the VA is probably not doing it right, so you make sure that it's been implemented. And that's why I think that the court, as our final stop along the way, should absolutely be required to take. Look, it's more work. They're going to have to do more work. I'm sorry. You got to do more work. I'm sorry you're going to have to hire a few more people to figure it out. But this is the last stop. This is it. So I think that it should have been ruled in favor to fix that problem. Anyway, back to you.
Well, in other news, there's even bigger legislation happening right now than that Supreme Court ruling. And this it's regardless of which direction this goes, this will have an effect on the front end submission of VA disability claims. And they disappeared about 2 years ago, arguably longer than that. And now the PLUS Act, the GUARD Act, and then there's a Senate bill, I forgot what its name is, that's going to be coming up here soon, on front end submission. So I'm going to explain in short what these are, and then I'd like your thoughts on this, Jason. And then I do want to talk about what happened at the House Veteran Affairs Committee, because it's insane. And Luttrell, who is the chairman of HVAC, called out the CEO of Veterans Guardian straight to his face, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful because whenever Congress was asking the FBI director all these questions, and they're asking all these senators all these other questions, and people just don't answer, like they really scapegoat. Veterans Guardian did the same thing. Okay, the same thing, and Luttrell was like, no, we don't do that here. And it was just very in your face. Like I've never seen someone so hardcore at not answering a question, and that should happen through Congress as a whole. Like that should be the standard. Okay. But if you haven't seen it, go watch it. It was beautiful. It's all the way at the very, very end. Anyways, the PLUS Act, long story short, allows VA claim companies to charge for initial claims. It also does not require accreditation. Okay, so two things there. Does not require accreditation. Now they are open to allowing companies to be accredited, so that way they can charge for initial claims. That would also allow like VA attorneys and claims agents to charge for initial claims. With a cap, I believe it's $12,500, which I think is insane. I think it should be no more than $2,000 personally. And then you have the GUARD Act, which is the complete opposite. Only people who are accredited can assist, prepare, gather evidence for front end submission claim. No charge on initial claims, period. Point blank. That's it. Boom. Then you have this third Senate bill, which I don't know the full details of, but the synopsis is it's essentially a combination of the PLUS and the GUARD, where we can charge for initial claims, but it's going to be at a cap. I hope that cap is not $12,500. I hope it's very, very low, but that's essentially what that bill is really going to be. I think that one's going to have the most support from everyone because it's kind of a combination of the two. That's my personal opinion. What are your thoughts?
Is which one, the GUARD Act?
Well, just in general, should veterans be charged for initial claims? And not just charged, I'm talking like 5 times, 6 times.
Right, yeah.
Which often results in like $8,000, $10,000.
Right.
In the House hearing, they talked about $30,000 charge for initial claims. Obviously, that's going from 0 to 100 on like a BDD claim. Imagine charging someone $30,000 on a BDD claim. Anyways.
Right. So I think, but okay, first.
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. So look, everything's so nuanced, and that's the problem. And you'll get people that say, hey, look, I tried 7 different ways and they all sucked. And finally I went through X company, they charged me whatever, and now I'm at 100%. So thank God. Right. So you do get those people, but I would think that I would be a fan of not charging for initial claim. You have to file your initial claim yourself or through a free resource, right? And then what happens is the VA goes through it. They make their determination. Maybe you had half of your conditions approved and maybe the other half aren't. And now you're a little bit confused on what to do. Maybe then you can go to a paid service, right? I'm not a fan of taking away people's choices, right? I'm not really a fan of that. If you want to go do that, that's cool. That's on you. But you need to be very aware of what's happening. I'm not a personally, I think you could do it yourself. I support accredited representatives. I support doing it for free until you get to maybe the point of filing to the BVA or to the Veterans Court. If you get to those points, maybe you might want to get with a claims agent or a accredited a VA attorney, right? So I think there's a place for paid services. I think that it got created because of a lack of resources for veterans. Not every veteran is fully capable of figuring out all of the nuancy things with regard to filing a claim. And so they need a resource to lean on. And some areas are more fruitful with options. You got maybe a veteran service organization there with representatives, DAV people. Maybe you have a veteran service office that's works for the county and they got a bunch of people, and you have all of these resources at your fingertips, and there's, you can get an appointment within a week and they'll spend 3 hours with you. That's awesome. Great. Not everywhere has that. Some people are like, I don't have anybody here. It's me sitting around on an island and I don't even know who to call, and I'm lost. I tried to file a claim. I screwed it all up. I got nothing back, or I don't even know how to start it. And so these organizations saw an opportunity to go, you know what, we'll fill that gap. Do I think they overcharge? Sure. Absolutely. I think there's certain types of claims that they shouldn't be allowed to file. I think that there needs to be some pro bono requirements. Let's say you can't charge for presumptives, but you have to assist if you're helping them. You have to file for that. But you can't charge for that in whatever way it happens. I'm more about a flat fee than a percentage of the increase, and I think that it should be capped. I don't think that it should be a get rich type of a situation for these organizations. But I do understand that you're paying for lights, you're paying for employees, you're paying for all the different things you got to pay for. I think that, again, Clay, that these organizations are a result of a lack of funding at the end of the day for free resources for veterans, either at the state level, the veteran service organization level, the county level. These organizations are out there. I will throw this out there to you, Clay, and then I'll kick it back to you. At the National Association of Counties, so all the county organizations, right? Government is government, right? It's just at different scales. So at the county level, there's an association, National Association, and the VA secretary spoke at that conference and talked to county leadership about how important counties are in relationship to veterans receiving VA care and working together to do so. I'm going to give two examples here real quick. One, counties typically will have veteran service offices to assist veterans. However, these offices are often underfunded because they don't really understand how all this stuff works. Get a couple people in there, good to go. So they're not proactive. So I'm hoping that these veteran service offices, with the VA secretary speaking at the leadership level, can then start having conversations about budget requests and asking to hire a new person and whatever, and bolster up their offices so they could be proactive. So that's one thing counties have. Another thing that counties do that you might not be aware of is if your county offers, or your state offers through the county, any sort of safety net benefits, right? So basically welfare type stuff. If a person goes in to one of those offices and applies for that, they're asked if they're a veteran. And then that office, if the checkbox is yes, a veteran, that information gets sent to the veteran service office that then checks to see if they have any sort of VA disability compensation or any other benefits coming in. And if they don't, they're making appointments with those people to pull them over and try to have a conversation about getting them connected with whatever benefits they have, whether it's VA pension, which is a low or no income safety net program from the VA, or VA disability compensation. So the counties do play a big role in the awareness aspect, I think. And I'm hoping that we can get some positive traction there to help eliminate the need for these paid services is really where I'm going with all this. Back to you, Clay.
Yes, I'm actually going to disagree with you. Not on the county thing, on the why these companies exist.
Yeah.
You play devil's advocate to me.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
I think these companies exist for, I think what you said is a factor. I would not put it as number one. I think these companies exist because they are able to charge whatever they want, meaning they are not just rich, hundreds of millions of dollars of veteran compensation checks, okay, have gone to these companies. Not 100 million, not 200 million, hundreds of million, okay? It might be a billion. It might have crossed that billion level tier just in the last 3 years from COVID and PACT Act, okay? I would be willing to bet it's crossed that. So we're definitely not talking some, okay? And the issue, people say, well, it's not really a big deal because it's not our business. Well, those are taxpayer dollars. One, it is our business. And two, that's money that should be going to the veteran. Now, this isn't on appeals. This isn't on the VA got it wrong and the veteran's been fighting. This is on initial claims. And I do want to say this. Is the VA process perfect? It's not. Does the VA process work? Yeah, it does. If you submit a claim, you don't have your medical records from service, you don't have a current diagnosis, you don't have anything. But when you submit that claim, the VA's duty to assist will kick in and you will be service connected given there's something in your records and given that you have a chronic condition. That happens a lot. Generally speaking, when we talk about Nexus letters and DBQs and having your evidence submitted, that's whenever you're fighting the VA, okay? And so the initial claims process works, and if it didn't work, 8 million plus veterans wouldn't be service connected. One, so the process does work, okay? And the reason these companies exist is because they can charge whatever they want. Now you have companies, and I'm not trying to blast this partnership on the channel. I'm sorry, but you have companies like VETCOMM who charge a flat fee of $11.97. That, in my opinion, should be the standard versus 5 times, 6 times the increase. There's a reason they're charging that much, and it's because they can. Okay, that's why. It's because they can. The reason they don't want to be accredited, or they don't want an accreditation to dictate what they can or cannot charge, is because they're going to lose profits. That's why. Okay, Luttrell, I said earlier that Chairman Luttrell ate into Veterans Guardian CEO. He asked him, why don't you become accredited? And Veterans Guardian gave every answer, how great BSOs are, how great this is, but definitely didn't answer the question on why he didn't become accredited. And Chairman Luttrell said, it's because of profits. It's because if you become accredited, you can't do what
if you're a claims agent all of a sudden.
Exactly. And anyone, Jason, so I was a federal employee. I'm no longer a federal employee. Okay. That's a time for another video, but we can now be accredited if we wanted to help personally with like appeals and stuff like that, meaning anyone can apply for accreditation. And I would say that's the reason these companies exist, because it's a market that is not regulated by the government. So therefore they can charge whatever they want. And one of many predatory practices, and I'll probably end my thoughts here.
It's kind of like drug dealers against legalized drugs.
Yes. Exactly.
Okay, go ahead.
So one of the predatory practices, and there are many, but one of them, and this one I think most people would agree on. These companies, they have the funds for advertising, right? The VFW does not have the budget to buy Facebook ads and Google ads, and you open up Microsoft Edge and bam, you have a Veterans Guardian ad in front of your face. That's a lot of money to do that. Okay. It's a lot. They have ads, and one of their sales pitches, okay, is actually false advertisement when they say, hey, come to me, we will help your claim get through faster. And let me just, in case you're wondering, I don't care if you're an attorney, a claims agent, you can be the VA secretary himself, submit a claim. It doesn't matter. Front end submission has zero, not a little bit, zero impact on the VA claim process. Okay. And so what these companies are doing, their predatory practice is they're capitalizing on VA process sucks, come to us, when the outcome has no effect on the VA claim process. And so the more you dig, the more you find out that these companies are in it for not just profit, insane profit. I'm talking like 1,000+% profits like that. That's the margin of profit we're talking about here. And so you do have companies like VETCOMM, and then there are also other companies that have this one-time upfront payment. That's essentially what the Senate bill is going to turn into. That is something that I can support. So I can go on and on and on what a predatory practice is and how these companies truly are taking advantage of veterans, because they're helping them submit claims. I would agree with that, but they're also taking an arm and a leg with it, which for initial claims is just really dumb to do that. Okay, I'm going to hold back right there. Final thoughts, Jason, on this whole episode, and then go ahead and wrap it up.
All right. So I think it's important to kind of follow up this claims consulting company thing with, look, if you're filing your first claim or you're thinking about filing a claim, you can do it yourself. You can do it online. You could do it with paper and send it in. The VA is really looking for three things, right? They're looking for your time in service. Go grab your DD-214. If you don't have it, you can order it. If you don't have service treatment records, you can order it. That's with the SF, so Sierra Foxtrot, SF 180. The SF-180 form, you can order your records. Order them. Call the VA directly. Tell them that you want to put in an intent to file. That will preserve today's date. Then get your information, right? You got your DD-214. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for a diagnosis. It doesn't matter when this diagnosis happened, okay? Could have happened in service. Could have happened 10 years after service. You need to have a diagnosis of whatever condition. The next thing is the nexus. This is the most important piece. The nexus is the link between that diagnosed condition and your time in service. What the VA is looking for here is not necessarily show me that the military caused this problem, but rather show me that this problem either manifested during your time in service or as a result of your time in service. Now, in your medical records, if you have any mentions of that type of a condition, right? Like if you self-attested to migraines, for example, or painful swollen joints, at least you made some sort of documentation in there. You don't have to have been necessarily diagnosed in service. You can work with your doctor and have them put together a Nexus letter with all the rationale circled in with all the VA legalese to make sure that you have a solid claim to file. Work with your doctor with that. Incorporate verbiage from the schedule of ratings. If you need a DBQ, disability questionnaire, to help you establish the correct rating level, should you be a 10%, a 30, a 50? Where do you fall on that rating schedule? Work with your doctor with that. If your doctor is willing to do it, they might do it at no cost, no additional cost to you, which is great. They might charge a small fee to do these extra things, but try it with your doctor. If your doctor can't or won't or doesn't, utilize AME, American Medical Experts. At the end of the day, you need evidence to file with your claim, okay? The link to AME is in the description. Check it out. Free consultation. They are not a claims consulting company. They are board certified doctors that understand the VA and all of the legalese that has to be required to get you the evidence that you need to support your claim. I'll tell you, if you go to a claims consulting company and you don't have the evidence you need, they're going to tell you to go do the same thing, but they're going to charge you a bunch of money to go do the same thing. So save yourself money, get the evidence you need, file your claim, and see what the VA says and comes back with. I just wanted to kind of throw that out there, that it's a very, if you just look at that, Clay's done 1,000 videos. Well, maybe not. Clay's done a lot of videos on the subject. I've done a lot of videos on the subject of filing a claim. The information's out there. There's others too. Try to do it yourself. Work with your spouse, work with your son, your daughter, have them help you fill out everything, have a second set of eyes. If you don't have a accredited VSO or what have you to help you, you can do it yourself, and give it a shot first before you start blowing money out. Do you have any last thoughts, Clay, before I wrap it up?
Yeah, I do want to say one thing. Let's just say first, if you don't know what Jason just said, the answer is go to a VSO. Okay, just to be very clear. And let's just hypothetical, just to cover all things. Let's say you don't have the mental bandwidth or the time to get your records and go through that stuff. Submit the claim, because the VA is going to pull your records anyways. And then go through the process. The process does work. Now, that's bare minimum. Obviously, Jason and I are going to preach evidence-based claims. That's what you should aim for. But don't let the process force you to pay someone $8,000 for something that you could go online, spend 20 minutes, claim PTSD, and let the process do what the process does. That's all I wanted to add on that. Obviously, the more you do on the front end, the better it's going to be.
Right. And here's the worst case scenario. They deny you. They tell you why they denied you. And you're still preserving your effective date, which means that you can take a knee, adjust fire, and refile with a supplemental claim with whatever you were missing. And then if they approve you, then they're going to still give you your back pay all the way back to the original effective date. So it's a big deal. All right. With that, thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate every single one of you so very much. Have a great day. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.